Hello everyone, it is Dani and welcome to this update video on what is going on across the tropics. And now we have Tropical Depression 9 in the Caribbean that is going to be a threat to areas such as Jamaica, the Cayman Islands, and Cuba. And especially my fellow Jamaicans, I really want you guys to pay attention to this because this is no joke. We're likely to feel very significant impacts as a result of this brewing tropical cyclone. And so before I go into details, please do subscribe and tap the notification bell so that you never miss an important update video on the tropics. And to show your support for the channel, you can also leave a like on this video. Okay, and now we're taking a look at current satellite view of the North Atlantic. So just to point out, there we have Hurricane Fiona up there, and then we have Tropical Storm Gaston in the vicinity of the Azores. There is also that tropical wave out there, as well as another that has emerged off Africa. And both of those waves are designated as invests, and we could see some development over the next couple of days of these systems, but that chance is more probable for the disturbance that has emerged off Africa, which is designated as Invest 90L. However, let us go ahead and take a look at a closer view of the Caribbean, where we have our newly formed tropical cyclone. And there we have our tropical depression being prominent with all of that shower and thunderstorm activity associated with it. So overnight, this one rapidly got itself together, and this is the best it's looked, as a matter of fact, and it is likely to improve even further as the system eventually intensifies even into a hurricane. And so as I speak about that now, let us go ahead and take a look at the cone forecast and then the anticipated impacts across the various areas that I mentioned earlier to be affected. And so here we have it, and we're seeing that it is expected to intensify into a tropical storm very soon, and the next name on the list is Hermine. So it's likely that we're looking at brewing Tropical Storm Hermine, and as of right now, maximum sustained winds are 35 miles per hour, and it is accelerating to the west-northwest at 13 miles per hour. And so as of right now, it is expected to become a hurricane maybe by sometime early on Monday, although I think that it could become a hurricane before that, but it is likely to rapidly intensify in the northwestern Caribbean, headed into the eastern Gulf of Mexico. And we see here that in the long term for next week, Florida could be impacted by this. However, there can be a lot of changes with this cone forecast over time, and so we just have to keep watching it. But areas that are likely to be affected in the very near future include Jamaica, the Cayman Islands, and Cuba. And as I speak about that, let's take a look at the key messages from the National Hurricane Center. Tropical Depression 9 is expected to produce heavy rainfall and instances of flash flooding and possible mudslides in areas of higher terrain in Aruba, Bonaire, and Curacao. Heavy rains are also likely to spread into Jamaica and the Cayman Islands in the coming days. The depression is expected to approach Jamaica and the Cayman Islands as an intensifying tropical storm. Watches and warnings for these locations may be required in subsequent forecast cycles. The system is forecast to approach western Cuba and enter the southeastern Gulf of Mexico by the end of the forecast period. Interests in Cuba and those along the eastern Gulf Coast of the United States should closely monitor this system, though at this juncture, forecast uncertainty remains fairly high. So this goes back to what I was saying here. There can be many changes with this because we're talking about something that is pretty far out compared to the time in between now and when it would enter the Gulf of Mexico. So we can see a lot of changes with this system here, but it is likely to approach Jamaica as we're going to be heading into the latter part of tomorrow, late Saturday, heading into Sunday and Monday. And we see that by Monday, just before it makes its way over the vicinity of the Cayman Islands, it is expected to intensify into a hurricane. And I think that this could become a very significant hurricane, especially if it remains in the Gulf of Mexico. But one thing that can really help to limit this is just how quickly it is expected to move. But if we were talking about a slow-moving system, a system that is not going to be moving so quickly, then it would just have enough time to sit in favorable conditions and just intensify. But nonetheless, this is likely to bring very dangerous impacts to the northwestern Caribbean. And so in terms of the tropical storm force wind speed probabilities here, we see that it is the western portion of Jamaica that is most likely to experience tropical storm force winds from the system. Again, we can see it intensifying over the next couple of days, it's likely to become a tropical storm, maybe by later today. But other areas such as the Cayman Islands as well as western Cuba, including Isle of Youth, will likely feel some direct impacts from this, probably when it is even a hurricane at that point. So guys, if you're there, please take all the necessary precautions and stay safe. And so the very heavy rainfall that is in the forecast for Jamaica. So let's talk about these hazards affecting land. So in terms of the rainfall, for Aruba, Bonaire, and Curacao, the ABC Islands, maybe an additional 1 to 2 inches of rainfall expected. For northern Venezuela, 2 to 5 inches of rainfall. For northern Colombia, 3 to 6 inches of rainfall. For Jamaica, 4 to 8 inches with local maximum up to 12 inches. And then for the Cayman Islands, 4 to 8 inches. And then southern Haiti and the Dominican Republic, 2 to 4 inches with local maximum up to 6 inches. And so again, flooding, mudslides, those are all possible in Jamaica as a result of all of these heavy rainfalls that will be occurring. And so if you live in an area that is flood prone, meaning that it inundates very easily when it rains heavily, I suggest that you evacuate your area to your closest shelter, because this thing is something that we should not be taking lightly. And I mean, impacts are a little bit imminent. We're talking about over a day from now. So it is really best that you go to your nearest shelter. And here is a map from the ODPEM. And so if you are interested in finding the shelters in your area, you can go ahead and tap a link that I have in the description that directs you to that website. And so let us go ahead and talk about the conditions up ahead for this system. And so we're going to be taking a look at the sea surface temperatures now. And we see that sea surface temperatures are very warm, especially in the northwestern Caribbean, where it is likely that we will see some significant intensification of this tropical cyclone. And in terms of the ocean heat content, we see that there is so much energy that is in place for this system. Again, it's going to be moving into the northwestern Caribbean, and things are just in place. And even in the vicinity of it right now, there is a lot of energy to fuel it. And that's why we have this burst of convection within the system. And now it's just developing nicely because it was recovering from being impacted by the wind shear induced by Hurricane Fiona. But now it's accelerating into much more favorable conditions. And as I speak about that, let's look at the wind shear map. And here we are seeing that the system is going to be moving into more conducive shear, which is indicated by the greens. That means favorable wind shear. That is what tropical cyclones want in order to develop, not much interference. And then in terms of the moisture now across the Caribbean, we see that we don't really have much dry air, which is indicated by the yellow. So a pretty moist environment is also in place for this disturbance here. So again, guys, I implore you to all take the necessary precautions and stay safe, because this is going to be very impactful. And so guys, I just want you to all stay safe, as this system is going to be nearing the island come very early next week. And so that is really it for now, and I will be doing another update video later today on this, so that you guys can always stay updated on what is happening. And so if you have any questions, you can leave them down in the comments. I'll try to respond as best and as soon as I can. And of course, remember to always be weatherwise.